Ladies and gentlemen, my next guest is Alan Dee Geddes.
Hmm.
He is actually a tarot card reader. He's a super interesting person. We're just talking about magic, real magic, and how it's indistinguishable from science.
Hmm.
We're also talking about just how you can read tarot cards. That's something I'm
Right.
really interested in, because each person reads it a little differently, and
I know.
there's
Yeah.
different variations of it, right?
Hmm.
Can you tell us a little more about the different variations?
Sure. As far as the reading cards go, there are just literally thousands of decks, and some decks focus on different things. Some are more esoteric than others. I use the Rider-Waite deck, which is probably one of the most popular, and in fact, decks after that were styled after the Rider-Waite, which came out in 1909.
Okay.
And a lot of spiritual knowledge toward that end.
You told me you discovered this back in the 70s in Utah,
Hmm.
where there really wasn't any like pagan markets or any pagan things going on per se.
Back in the 70s, in the Weber County Library in Ogden, they did have a couple of books on Wicca. I am
Uh-huh.
Wiccan. I do practice
That's
witchcraft, and of course, I incorporate it a lot
but I feel like
into my
that's an
reading.
umbrella of witchcraft. When people say witchcraft, first of all, it's like a negative connotation. Some people perceive it that way.
It does have a negative
Yeah.
connotation. I wish they'd come up with something better. I do call myself pagan, but technically, I would probably be an eclectic Gardnerian, because
Gardner.
Gerald Gardner wrote a couple of books back in the 50s and then the 70s that the Weber County Library had.
Okay.
And of course, they talked about the rituals and even about a little bit about divination. Of course, that's connected with the tarot. And so that really intrigued me, back in the day when I was a kid going to the library. And
Nice.
that kind of stuck in my mind.
Back to tarot. You're telling there's different variations because
Different
I've been
variations.
to Mexico and I've seen different tarot cards. What would be the difference between that and Gardner's tarot cards?
Religious uh, teachings, religious beliefs. There are tarot decks that explore numerology, astrology. Some decks cover different paths, like Native American. Of course, there's several Wiccan tarot decks available.
Is there like a good tarot deck and a bad tarot deck, or is it really just based off of intuition and perception?
Intuition and perception. There are two different kinds of tarot decks. One of which, the one that I use, all 78 cards have pictures on them.
Okay.
Well, especially with the minor arcana, which are the 56 cards, which are similar to a regular deck of playing cards.
Uh-huh.
And so,
Okay. Got it. That's the one you use. What's the other variation?
so the other variation
Is it 78 cards?
would be the 78 card deck, but instead of, as an example here,
Uh-huh. Okay, he's opening up his deck. Uh-oh. Terra Grand Lux.
yes, one of my favorites. I collect
Cool.
quite a few
And by the way,
decks.
you wrote a book, right?
I did,
Discovering
yeah.
Tarot
Uh-huh.
with Alan D.
Yeah,
Geddes.
that just
Nice.
recently came out.
Cool. I'll share it. That's
Yeah.
actually pretty interesting.
Hmm.
Okay, so
And so, for example, we have the five of coins,
okay.
and it basically just shows five coins. Here we have a hand, but in some decks, and I don't know if you can see this or not, but in some decks, there are just the four, are just the pips instead of any scenes or pictures like that.
Okay, so
And so,
let's just say someone walks into your shop or where you're actually reading cards, and then they pull out that card. What does that mean?
oh, yes, the five of coins. That is in front of a stained glass window. And if
Okay,
I
so what
go
does it
with
mean per
my
se?
deck, one of the meanings is being left out in the cold, even though the door is open.
Is that you
You
doing that to
still
yourself?
feel, yeah, you can definitely do it
Okay,
to
like I mean, as
yourself.
in like the opportunity is knocking on your door. Sometimes you just have to listen.
Right, right. And so what I'm doing now is just getting that five of
Okay,
pentacles
and
to show
how?
you the difference.
Okay, so what would you say to a person that pulled out that deck? Like, would you give them advice, or would you say, "Hey, this is what it means," or "What does it mean to you?" And you would just tell them to try to find it themselves.
The interesting.
Nah, it's okay.
It's it.
Don't worry about the deck. It's
Yeah.
yeah, we'll look
Okay.
into it later.
There we go.
All right.
So the similarities here you can kind of see where we have that stained glass window. These people are let out in the cold. This is the deck that I prefer, or a version of it.
Okay.
And so the message behind this card, the Five of Pentacles, is that there are people that are able to help those that are in need.
Uh huh.
And this window can turn into a door if you put it in
Oh,
reverse. And I
nice.
do like to read cards in reverse as well. And it shows a message that people are out there to support you, but you have to, you have to seek help. You have to open the door and let yourself in out of the cold, or out of the circumstance that you're in. It's an encouragement to be more spiritual,
Or
because that glass window does remind me of a church.
when you mean more spiritual, man, that's
Connecting,
such a
yeah,
with your higher self,
connecting with your higher
or
self.
connecting with the universe, or just paying
Exactly,
attention to more things that happen around you. Because spiritual is, man,
exactly.
it's like such a broad term. Witchcraft
It
could be
is.
spiritual.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
I do.
So you should just look out for more opportunities in like a very generic form.
Hmm.
Okay, got it.
Just go out and receive help instead of feeling like you're all alone,
Or
because you're not. I
or
mean,
don't be ashamed to ask for it.
yeah, exactly,
Got it. Cool.
exactly.
Okay, so how can you read the deck? We're talking about that off air. Someone, let's just say you don't know them. Me, I walked into your shop, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I just want a tarot card reading. Would you ask them like, what are you looking for? What's going on in your life? Because you told me you don't do that. That's like probing.
Right.
And why do you not do that?
Well, because even on a subconscious level, even if you don't mean to do it, you're reading information into the cards from
Okay.
what the client, shares with you. And so when a client does come in, then I will we will do the reading, and if they want to share with me information, I do encourage them to just kind of wait until, the reading is over, and to see how those cards resonate
Nice.
with that particular person.
Okay, so they come in, and I would just say I come in. I'm like, hey, just read me my fortune.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not telling you anything.
Right.
And would you just
And
whip it out and just start?
absolutely. In
That's like
fact,
the best way to,
that's the preferred way.
or so.
And if you're wanting to get a tarot reading, chances are you probably know the procedure, or of being somewhat knowledgeable with the tarot. Otherwise, you wouldn't be going to get a tarot reading. But
Actually,
unfortunately, there are people that readers that do kind of probe for information.
actually,
And we talked about ethics earlier,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that's just an ethic that I just I want to make sure I have
So,
higher ethics.
so we're talking about being able to read people's current state and their future
Hmm.
state, or like just reading their fortune in a sense.
Right.
And when people come in, they're giving you, whether you ask for it or not, they're giving you permission to look into their
Hmm.
inner self.
Right.
So, and I was like, is it possible to do that without people giving you permission? And you said it's unethical. But at
Right.
the end, you said it is also possible.
It is possible. Like if a woman is curious about her husband, going
Cheating
out
on there?
cheating,
Yeah, yeah.
then that would be unethical for me to give a reading to her, because it's not using the husband's permission.
What if
And so
you're reading her and something pops up about her husband cheating on her? And then
then I can talk about that.
would you usually
And
talk about it, or you really don't want to get into that?
no, that's what the tarot is here for. I mean, the tarot, depending on decks, can be quite graphic. And of course, in the deck, we have tarot cards that are pretty major. They're based on life experiences that we go through. You're probably familiar with the death card, for example, which doesn't mean that you're going to die. It means change and transformation.
Okay. All right.
But we've got cards like strength. We've got the hermits, hermiting yourself,
Nice.
going into seclusion for soul searching.
One thing that my curiosity,
Death
how
card.
are you able? Oh, how are that's not necessarily a bad thing I've heard.
No,
Okay. So
I
maybe some part of you
I
dies
encourage it.
for you to
Yeah,
be a better person.
exactly. Out with the
You're
old,
in with
in
the
with the
new.
new.
So it doesn't mean like you're gonna die yourself, but some part of you, and it's like
Yeah,
your inner innocence or like your inner, I don't know, like your inner insecurities die, and you
right.
become a better person.
Hmm.
Um, but one thing is like we're talking about the universe is all connected to this somehow, and when you're reading cards, you have to be very intuitive,
Hmm.
and the I mean, how does it work, man?
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to get to. Like, how does it really work? Like I know. I'm guessing the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Hmm.
And you don't
Practice.
really know if you're telling them the right thing or the wrong thing. But you told me after the reading, and you don't know anything about this person, then you'll ask them. Then you'll
Hmm.
start probing. But that's
Well,
afterwards.
not probing, but if they want to share some
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
information, if they, if they're, I want to make sure they're happy with the reading.
Well, I mean,
Definitely, if it does answer the primary questions. I had a person come in just a few weeks ago that, and he just came in, he made an appointment, came in, and we did the reading. And it turns out afterwards he was planning on moving, to another country where, the ocean is.
yeah.
Sure enough, the possible final outcome card was the Queen of Cups, which the Queen is portrayed sitting next to the ocean. And he was the person that brought up the point that why is this queen sitting next to the ocean?
Interesting.
And it's because he was kind of planning on moving to another country, and that was in his future. And so that was kind of an encouragement and a confirmation.
What does that card mean, though?
The Queen of Cups. Cups represent the element of water, which is connected to our emotions. It's something of the heart chakra. And it's that intuition, it's that gut feeling
Yeah,
that
yeah.
we sometimes have. If they're feminine traits, but of course we share both masculine and feminine traits.
I don't know,
You
man.
know,
There's a lot of police officers that have gut feelings,
yeah,
and they
and
follow
well,
that.
exactly.
Yeah.
But we have those different traits, and so if a card like that comes up in a reading, that does show a successful person being a queen and all, in control of her emotions and being a kind and generous person.
Okay.
And of course, because the cups represent the element of water, then the scenery is going to have a lot of water in it, which is why the Queen of Cups is next to the ocean.
Okay.
And so, interesting.
Yeah,
So,
that's super.
paying attention to the artwork, I think, is an important part of having that connection. Also, and you probably know this, but different readers approach tarot in entirely different ways.
Yeah, they do.
I'm a Reiki master, and so I incorporate that energy into the cards, and I have my clients do that as well. When they're shuffling the cards in the beginning, before we cast them out in the spread,
Yeah.
I will have the client spread the cards on the table, putting their energy into the cards while we're chatting, small talk, and then afterwards I will gather up the cards, square them back up in one stack, thus putting my energy into the cards as well. That gives us an opportunity to connect with our souls spiritually.
Okay.
And
Come.
I think that really does help
Okay. Cool. Got
as
that.
far as
So,
reading those
there's a lot of people
vibrations.
that really could swear by this stuff, and there's a lot of people that think it's rubbish, like BS.
Yeah.
Um, do people come in that own businesses and corporations, and they always like seek advice from you, like rich, powerful people?
I've had some very wealthy people in
That's
my
what I mean.
career
Yeah.
that, that are part of large companies. In
Yeah.
fact, there's a reading that just came to my mind when you mentioned that. I worked at a New Age shop in the Ogden area, and a lady that works at a corporation, she's really higher up.
Uh-huh.
And I think we talked about this before the podcast, but she was wondering if she should take this job promotion. We shuffle the cards, I did my procedure, and then sure enough, there was some messages that said that she should pursue that career. And she did, and she was successful. And it's because of those pentacles, which can represent coins, money, material things. They were laid out in a way, several cards that showed a green light to accept that promotion. Because she
Okay.
was worried and concerned, whether it was going to be a good fit for her. but afterwards, it was good. And it was the cards, not by themselves, but they encouraged her to really kind of further explore and then take a chance. You know, it's a matter of her playing her cards right,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
other
Play your
words.
cards right.
And when
Interesting.
you do see similarities of the pictures of the spread in your life, then that's when information can come from your conscious mind, subconscious mind, into your conscious mind.
Okay. So while we're on the topic of like rich and powerful people, so there's a lot of politicians,
Right.
presidents, billionaires that have like oracles or fortune tellers or we could call them metaphysical, supernatural
Hmm.
um, decision making processes, which is super interesting, man. Like even President Putin, is a super rich and powerful person. He has his own oracle, not
Hmm.
a fortune teller, but an oracle. Apparently, the difference is the oracle can see vast things, not just one person's life. That's like the big difference. And he's totally open to it. He's open. He's
Hmm.
like, yeah, he talked about it openly. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's perfectly fine. It's the oracles have been around as long as we've been around, and
Yeah,
so using them as a tool to help them in their lives, I don't see anything wrong with that.
yeah. I mean,
Because we do talk about ethics, and if
yeah, yeah.
if on the other hand, they use the tarot to try to cheat or, maybe try to get promoted by that way, knowing secrets, then that would be, a kind of a bad karma.
Bad karma.
I believe in karma. What you send out, you get back
Yeah.
threefold.
So that's
And
possible
so
too, but
it
you
is
don't
possible
recommend it.
too, but I don't recommend it because karma,
Karma's a
does come
bitch.
back. Karma's a bitch. You took
Uh,
the words out of my mouth,
Karma's a
and I'm
bitch. We
old
could say
enough to
that.
know, I'm old enough to figure
Yeah,
this
yeah.
out.
It is.
I've had some karma come back to me for past actions that I've done in my life, and so you really have to be aware of that.
Got it.
And maybe in the short term things will work out, but eventually things do balance out.
Okay.
You know,
Okay. Got it. Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, I'm just curious because you would think they wouldn't because they're so smart, intelligent, but like
right.
they're actually doing
Some
it.
people
They have it
do,
very close to them.
and then they'll pay the price for it.
No, no, no. I mean, like they have oracles and
Oh
like
yeah,
people that they seek guidance into.
right.
That like
Hmm.
really, it's just those people are just a medium for just like I guess their higher self. Would you say
Right.
that? Yeah.
Hmm.
You also said something about when you read people's fortune, you ask them questions because you want them to be happy. Um,
After the reading,
afterwards.
yeah.
But here's the thing. I've talked to other people that have read cards, and they're like sometimes they're just not happy because you just tell them pretty much the truth and what they need to hear. Does that happen too to you sometimes? Even though they're not really happy with it, but that is the truth. But it's
Hmm.
not your job to make them really happy, right? It's your job to just be completely honest with
It's
them.
my job to leave them thinking about their situations and, you know, being happy too. There are amateur card readers
Uh huh.
that can be more to the point because there are some graphic images in the tarot as there's the tower card which show people jumping out of buildings, things like that.
I
And
mean, can't that?
you got to take these more of a not a literal nature, but more of a symbol, being symbolic, like we talked about the death card,
Yeah.
which really doesn't mean death,
Yeah.
although it can. Its meaning is change and transformation.
That's what I would think.
Now, a beginner tarot card reader or a person that, is not that, well, an amateur,
They're not that experienced. Let's just
not
say
that
that.
experienced, will probably send that literal image of the tower or the death card, and the client will go away thinking that I might die or that something terrible is going to happen to me, which in fact it won't.
Okay.
I mean, we worry about so many things in our lives, and if we think about it, almost none of those come true at the end.
Yeah. Well, here's the way I've been taught because I take a lot of meditation classes and how
Hmm.
to manifest my own destiny. There's infinite possibilities, my friend.
Right.
Like from here to the next 3 hours, a billion and one things could happen.
Hmm.
A lot of people somehow they program themselves to fixate on the worst possible outcome, and that's what ends up happening.
Yeah.
Versus me, I like to fixate on the best possible outcome, and the probability of that happening is a lot greater. So it's really the way you just have to set up your mindset
Hmm.
or reprogram yourself, as you would say.
Right. A tower, the scene of a tower crumbling with
Yeah.
people jumping out of it,
I would
you
think
know.
jumping out of that shitty situation to a better one.
Yeah, exactly.
Jumping into a river or something, you know?
And I always say when a tower card comes up, for an example, that sometimes we need to have that balance because it's unbalanced now. Otherwise, that tower wouldn't be falling,
Yeah.
right? And so basically, the tower represents that shakeup that we sometimes need to make things more of an even field. The next card after the tower card is the star card, wishing upon a star
Yeah, yeah.
and having more of a clear vision because the disruption has ended, the dust is starting to settle, and we're able to see clearly. We're able to see those stars and, wish upon those stars for a
Nice.
better situation, a better circumstance.
So what I meant by making people happy, because sometimes like imagine like you open up a card where
Mhm.
something's in their future that's maybe not so good, like their husband is cheating on them.
Right.
But they love their husband dearly, this, that. Would you, is it your responsibility to tell them that?
If the cards do show,
That's
like
what
for
I'm saying.
example, we have the lover's card, which does represent true love, romance,
Yeah.
whatnot. In reverse, some may interpret that as, not having a quality love life or,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
quality experience. It sometimes depends on the reader interpreting the cards. In the lover's card, if it shows up in reverse, it's about self-love, loving yourself so that you can love one
Yeah,
another.
yeah. Because you can't love other people if you don't love
Right,
yourself.
right. And if there are some cards that are similar to this, like the Two of Cups,
Mm-hmm.
which do show two people communicating, there are also cards in the deck, which are the court cards,
Uh huh.
the kings and queens, which can represent people in our lives. And so, if those are configured in a way that tells me that there might be some, cheating going on, then I would explain to the client what I see and then suggest maybe some therapy from a professional,
Nice.
marriage counseling.
Yeah.
Because again, we go by our gut feelings, and when we
Yeah.
spend time with these people, when we're married to them, then we have a bond. And we just create a bond with that
Yeah, you
person
too.
and on a psychic level as well. And so even in the back of their mind, they may know something is true. The cards are kind of confirming that, which sends a message to kind of pursue that, to either get counseling or merit, therapy, or leave the relationship to move on to a better one that's
Okay.
more suitable.
Um.
I've been through a couple of divorces. I've been through that, been there, done that. And that's kind of what you do.
Nice. Also, I have a friend that reads like palms and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Because most people just come in because they want to know about their future. Um, she always tells people that, like, even though I'm reading this to you, this is not set in stone.
And it's
Like,
not.
your future is fluid. Like, if you
Right.
don't like what's coming out, you
Hmm.
have the power to change it.
Exactly.
Would you agree with that?
I definitely agree. Laying cards out in a pattern,
Yeah.
and I use a 13 card spread,
Okay.
but there are 6 card spreads too.
So 13 cards is more complex.
Yeah, that covers all the bases. That's one of the
Okay. So
one
you're
of
not
the
leaving anything out.
yeah one of the
See,
readings that I like to
I
do.
like you, Alan. Tell you the
Yeah.
truth, I've talked to a lot of people. You're very enthusiastic. That's how I know
Hmm.
someone is actually good at what they do, or just
Well,
loves it.
thank you.
No, no,
And again, going back to the future's not set in stones, and we joked about playing your cards right
yeah.
earlier. We see this array of cards, and in fact, I gave myself a spread, and I do read cards for myself.
You too.
And for me, it's more of a confirmation. And so that is an example of a spread of a 13 card configuration.
So why is it? I will talk about that later. But
And so it does show different paths here. We have the distant past, recent past, future influences. We have your hopes up here and the fears down here. And then it travels to the top where we have the day to day living. On top of that card, we have inner emotions. And on top of that card, we have the possible final outcome because it's possible to change your path by
100%.
recognizing maybe a couple of these cards that really resonate with you. Because I've had many clients say, this card, my eye is just drawn back to this card. Please explain it more to me. and then I'll do that, and that can kind of give them a better image on what they need to do. If the death card shows up, then maybe it's time for a little bit of change and transformation, you
So
know, kind of breaking out of the rut that we're in and going out and doing things different, you know, for a change. And so, yeah, it does. Your path is we do have that free will, if you will, or free agency, but we're able to control our destinies. We
okay,
have more say than what some
and
people might think, and the cards can be a good visual tool to confirmation to confirm what we're feeling inside, what
so
resonates with us.
so my next question, I want to tell you a little story, and then my next question is,
Okay.
when you read people's cards, is it possible that some people's more accurate than other? The reason I'm asking you this is because there's a girl I really liked. I went to visit her in Washington D.C.
Hmm.
And she actually, this is before I was into like magic and just fortune telling and stuff like that.
Right.
Back in like 2018, I went and visited her, and she made me see a fortune teller. I'm like, dude, I don't really care about this. And the fortune teller was way off. The only thing she got right, I think, was she said, "There's nothing for you here."
Hmm.
And that actually, me and that girl, they did not work out at all. We're
Right.
still, I mean, I talk to her every so often, but just there's nothing for us. Like we're very different people. But when she goes, or her mom goes, or her relatives, that lady is very spot on. But for me, it was like way off. Like she's like, you're gonna become rich and travel the world, in the next couple of years. And I mean, actually, I mean, I've been traveling more and making more money, so maybe she got that right. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
now that I think about it, but I mean, a lot of the things she said at that time wasn't really accurate. Um, so are you
At
able?
that time,
Yeah, at that time.
the tarot was based upon human experience, and we
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to, you know,
yeah,
put that in the cards as well, especially the major arcana. And sometimes we have good days, and other times we have bad
yeah. You're
days.
human
You
at the
know,
end
we're
of the day.
human.
Yeah, but is
And
it
of course,
possible?
it depends too on the experience of the reader as
But
well. If they, you know, you go to a person that's only been reading tarot for a year, as compared to one who's been reading it for 27 years, there's going to be a lot of information learned
not just
through
that.
trial and error and through the many clients
What I'm
that
thinking
you
is,
see.
when I went in, I was like kind of like not negative, but I was closed off to it. Like I don't really care. It was like I was dating the girl, so she kind of forced me to go. I was like, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever, I guess. But she's
Hmm.
totally open to it. So would the difference be that she was more open to it, so it was more accurate, versus me that was more closed off to it? So somehow I affected it in the process.
It could be very much
Do you know
because
what I mean?
sometimes we don't want to see what's actually there. And sometimes the tarot can be graphic in that way, you know, about the Tower card or the Devil card, or, you know, there's other cards too.
Right.
And so,
I mean, I was just,
yeah.
trying to make her happy. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like, I was like, man, I don't really care about this. And she's like, no, 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 you really need to go see this person. I was like, okay, fine, I guess.
So if you're, you know, troubled with addictions, for example, the Devil card kind of represents that addictive
Addictions.
behavior. And if you go to a reader and she or he lays out a spread with the devil in it, along with other cards, suggests that maybe they do have an addiction problem. You know, you can deny that and say, well, she was right off. And not, this doesn't mean you, but a person that might have a drinking problem might just kind of disregard that, thinking that they control their drinking problem, when in fact there might be an actual problem to be solved.
What is there cards that show up more often than not? Like
Uh,
more often, like some cards show up and some cards don't show up, or is it varies from person to person?
It'll vary from person to person, from reading. Now, we do have a 78 card deck.
Right.
22 of those are the major arcana, which we've been pretty much talking about, like the devil, the lover's card.
Okay. But
And so, you know, there's the sun card, there's also a moon card. But depending on the ratio of the mix, then you're going to get more of the minor arcana cards, which deal with day to day living.
okay.
The major ones are those major life events.
So do those come up more often than
The
other
day
cards?
to day
Yeah, the day-to-day cards.
come up more often.
And it's 78 cards,
Hmm.
and I pick any card I want, right? So it's not like
Right.
there's a separate set for day-to-day cards, and there's a separate set
No,
for
they're
just random.
combined.
They're
They're
combined together.
combined. And so basically, what the procedure is, you shuffle these cards and mix them, both major and minor arcana,
Mm-hmm.
putting your energy into the cards.
Mm-hmm.
We square up the deck and then we lay out a spread, and then that will show the different cards that are there, some of which can be those major arcana cards, which represent those major life experiences that we're going through.
Uh-huh.
And I think those are, enough to really kind of get us thinking because those can be connected with our day-to-day living as well.
Nice.
For example, you've fallen in love and you feel happy. There's the sun card that shows up. There's the lover's card. Yeah, it's
Cool.
it does send a strong message. Actually, I've had uh, readings. I've only had a few, but mainly the major arcana showed up in the layout that I did, and that's really kind of interesting.
Okay.
And there are some times when no major arcana cards will show up either. They'll just be all minor arcana cards. And when that happens, that means, day-to-day living, no big upsets in the future. Just kind of keep what you're doing.
That sucks. That's boring, man.
Well,
I think it is. I mean, some people find that like, oh, okay, I'm safe,
there are opportunities in the minor arcana cards as well, which does show a progression, like of a person being a professional. There is a card which is the Eight of Pentacles, which shows a person making one pentacle after the other, each one better than the rest. And so the message of that card is to keep practicing on your craft. And if the Three of Pentacles shows up, that shows that you've arrived at the professional. On the scene of the Three of Pentacles is a person, a sculpture, putting finishing touches on a baluster, and we have the two people that are inspecting his work.
Does that represent like something you've been working on for a while? You're finishing up.
You're finishing up. So
Okay.
in other words, if you're a construction worker, then you're finishing up, your work, and you have the inspectors looking at that and
Nice.
appreciating your good work. And so that's an encouragement to pursue what you're doing now. So it can be kind of boring. I mean, we are dealing with the minor arcana, but again, even with the minor arcana, there are many, many different cards that show a positive way and, an acceleration of that, of improving and growing. Because the minor arcana cards are numbered from 1 or ace to 10, and then they have the court cards, Jack, Queen, King, pages, whatnot. And so,
Okay. Got it.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Do you have any advice?
So,
do you
the number 1 through the number 10, the
Yeah.
number 1 does show the beginning of that element. Like we talked about the cups card, which is the element of water.
That's a little technical.
Okay, so there is a progression up to 10.
Okay.
And, the Nine of Cups is the wish card. And so that shows that you do have a lot of that loving energy because cups do represent that love, that watery feeling.
Okay.
So that does show a progression to kind of answer your question on the progression of the minor arcana.
Nice. So, question for you: do people have to physically be here for you to read their cards?
I prefer that. And
You
the reason
prefer that.
why is because I am a Reiki master and I work with people's energies.
Okay.
And I think it's, very effective if they touch the cards. Some people are kind of, they hold their cards close and they don't let people touch them.
Right.
But I'm kind of the opposite. I let them, touch the cards and shuffle them and,
Well, the reason I'm asking is because a lot of people, I mean, COVID is that people just want their cards to be read online. Do you also do that?
I don't. I have.
You have, but you just
I've done like on Facebook Live.
Yeah,
I've done things like that.
But you don't
and
prefer
they
to
are
do that.
somewhat effective. But what I'm saying is they're not as effective
Okay.
as being, like here with you,
Yeah,
having
yeah,
this
yeah.
conversation
and I
and
want you to
having
read my cards.
these visual tools to look at and see what they spark in your imagination, in
Nice.
your mind.
Well,
And so, yeah, that's what I prefer.
I
To be
definitely want you to
one-on-one.
read my deck after.
Yeah, okay.
But my advice was because I do want people to come see you because you seem very enthusiastic about what you do.
And I am. This is
and
one of
pl-
my passions.
Yeah,
just
it
to,
seems. Dude, you
just
showed
like
up with
my
a whole,
magic. Yeah.
you gave me a book. You gave me my
I've got all
like
this
most people don't do that.
stuff here
Yeah.
that I brought over because I wanted to be a little bit more technical than you
Well-
probably wanted, but it's the passion that I
Yeah.
have.
Well, I mean,
You know.
yeah, people that are passionate. It just rubs off on me. You know,
Exactly.
like that excitement,
And
which I like.
I am a positive person, and so I like to put a positive, thing on the cards, even if some sword cards show up,
Uh-huh.
which aren't the best to have. But sometimes we need to experience the bad to appreciate the good.
What would you say to people
Yeah,
that would say, I don't need this, I create my own future?
they do, in fact, do that. And some people don't need an oracle. This is just another tool to help people excel, to maybe clarify in their mind what they want to do in the future. But some people don't need that. Some people have a plan and they follow through with it. They go to college and
Uh-huh.
get a career and get married and whatnot.
Uh-huh.
And so,
And then when they're 50, they find out they're unhappy and miserable, and they never
oh,
wanted that in
that's,
the first
yeah, the shift. I know. I've
place.
gone through that.
um,
During younger years, we're in competition. We're trying to keep up with the Joneses
yeah, yeah,
and, get the current material things. And
yeah.
so we get so busy, caught up in doing that, that we overlook those things in our life that are important, that will be important when we approach the age of 50 and 60. I'm, in my 60s. And it's called a shift in
The
awareness to
shift.
where,
I call it midlife crisis, but yeah.
yeah, to where people aren't finding the meaning that they want.
Well, because they've been fed someone else's truth.
Right.
It's not their truth. It's like, well, did you ever stop and ask yourself what truly makes you happy? Instead of, hey, you know what? Society deems me to have a big house with a Corvette, and that deems me successful in life. Versus really, maybe what you wanted is to be a florist, but
Mhm.
that's like yay or something, you know?
Well, it depends on your dharma,
Yeah, I
that
mean,
life calling.
yeah, yeah,
And we're put on this earth to do what we were sent here to do, filling out that life contract. I do believe in reincarnation.
yeah.
And so
But I feel like you have the power within you to change that. Like
you do.
you do, like truly, truly, truly. I mean, if you believe in it, you can change it.
Mhm.
Like even if your life is shitty, you can shift at any point.
Right. When we come to the realization that the money and keeping up with the Joneses is not working, then we really find out what resonates in our heart. And if there is a musical instrument or, paints and paintbrushes that we dabbled with as a kid, maybe we should go back to that so we can, enjoy the art of creation
Nice.
or, that talent,
S-
that dharma that we have. And it doesn't depend on whether you want to raise horses in Montana or sell ice cream in Alaska. Each of us has our own dharma
Yeah.
and our own life, but we need to really kind of quiet ourselves to really find out what that is
Nice.
and kind of follow through with that because life is so short. We get caught up in so many things, and when we get older, then we wonder, well, what happened to all those years of me just going to a job that maybe I didn't particularly like? You know, I mean, I can speak from experience. I worked at a job, 11 years, a government job, and
Oh
I
yeah.
was I was miserable.
Yeah. You used to. Yeah. Yeah. You worked for the government. And you just quit so you could follow your
I
passion.
quit.
But you seem happier now, man.
I am
Good.
much
Good.
happier, and it took me until I was 59 to do it.
I mean,
You
hey,
know,
as long as
but
you did it.
things just and the cards were coaxing me to spend more time with them and with my magic. I've
Yeah.
got a YouTube channel. I do sleight of hand card
What's it
magic,
called?
and it's called Alan Dee Geddes, just my name.
I'll put it in the link so people can
Cool.
check it out.
And
I,
so,
I was gonna ask you this before it slips my mind. The reason I was asking you about reading cards online. First of all, I do want people to come see you, but not everyone
mhm.
lives in Utah. So if people are watching this out of state, what advice would you have for them to go and visit someone that's like a really good tarot card reader versus someone that's just an amateur? Like, how would you be able to tell the difference, or how would you be able to pick one? Because most people would just Google it and just go.
I know.
Some people
I
have
know.
really good advertisements. Some people
Mhm.
don't. That doesn't mean they're good at what
What
they're
I'd
doing.
yeah, what I'd first of all suggest is that they find a reader in their area. And if they can't do that, if the only option is to do it online, then I would, check around and make sure the people that are providing that are reputable.
Okay, let's just say
Now there is a, I there perhaps the owner of the Palladian altar might want to get into online readings. Then I would possibly do that. Keeping in mind, though, it's not as accurate as being one on one, but if that's the only way of doing it, then it's better that the nothing, you
That's not
know.
what I meant. What I meant is to say they find someone in their local area, but there's like 150 different tarot card readers. How would they be able to distinguish? Like, can you even distinguish someone that's good or not? Or you just a luck of the draw, really?
Um, well, there is one thing you can check the reviews on the
Yeah,
readers at a shop. You can go by your gut feelings
yeah, that's
too
what I
and your
would do.
intuition.
Yeah, that's what I would do,
That
man.
would be, your second option. Then you would probably see how long these metaphysical shops have been in business. If they've been in business for years and years, like for an example, Crohn's Hollow in Salt Lake has been around for many, many years, and they're a reputable
They are
place.
super
And
reputable.
they would only hire professional readings. And so,
Shout out to Durian, by the way.
oh, okay,
Yeah, yeah, I
great,
know the manager.
yeah,
They're super
uh-huh,
awesome people.
yeah, they are great people.
But the place where
Uh-huh.
you are is also awesome.
Hmm.
The
Oh
Palladium.
yeah, I
So
love
so
Julia.
yeah,
Hmm.
Julia. Shout out to Julia. She's
Yeah,
super cool. She recommended
right.
you. It's a crystal shop, but also has a really enthusiastic tarot card reader
Yeah.
named Alan. Come
Hmm.
visit him.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Last question. I always like to end this on a good note or just on a question. What advice do you have for people that are kind of like down on their luck or they're just not happy in their current state? What would you be able to tell them?
Okay. So I suffer from seasonal depression, which
Okay.
is called SAD,
Yeah.
seasonal affective disorder,
They don't have that in Los Angeles.
anxiety, and depression. And sometimes I'm feeling pretty low.
Okay.
What I do to get myself in a better mood was is rather to do something, whether that be exercising or walking. I like to go on long walks, because it's easier on your body, or listen to music or read books. Music is important in my life. I listen to a lot of, music. Progressive rock is my thing, you
Hey,
know.
it's cool stuff.
And so just focusing on the positive, and even though it is kind of hard to get out of your house or apartment, get out there and start getting involved with other people and, make that connection, because you'll find out that you're not the only one that might have some bad luck or dealing with some difficult times. You heard about these earthquakes that recently happened, and that is just tragedy. And we got to think to ourselves, we got to be grateful for living in a place where we don't have to deal with that.
I'm just grateful I woke up today.
Exactly. So have a
Seriously.
grateful attitude. And, if you feel those feelings coming back, then get out and do something. And either do something creative, get some exercise
Motion.
going.
Motion.
Motion, exactly. Look at some art, get involved with, things that really resonate with you. And gradually, through your positive effort, things will get better.
And they truly will.
They will.
Yeah, they truly will.
Yeah.
Right on.
All
Alan,
right.
thank you so much.
Well, thanks
I
for
really
having me.
no,
I
thanks
appreciate
thanks
it.
for jumping on and clearing
Yeah.
up some things about tarot because it can get complicated.
It
Um,
can. It's
so,
one of those things where you can spend lifetime studying it. In
yeah,
fact, people have, just like astrology.
nice. But you've been doing
Yeah.
like 30 years, so I kind of
Yeah.
trust your judgment, which is awesome. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Go and subscribe to this episode. I'll definitely have you back sometime. I'm gonna leave
Okay.
your information so people can reach out to you. And everyone, just have a great day and keep smiling.
All right. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.